The moment word reached the estate that Wyatt had passed his bar exam, I was practically rattling off calculations on my abacus. The past 3 years had drained my dowry significantly. The Hayes family was a bottomless pit, constantly bleeding money. My father-in-law, infatuated with his mistresses, would casually drop thousands on a single night. My sister-in-law's wedding last year, every penny of that lavish affair came from my dowry. Even my young brother-in-law's education was funded by my money. 3 years, tens of thousands of dollars, even with my substantial dowry, it couldn't sustain such extravagance. Plus, if Wyatt succeeded, there'd be endless expenses for networking and celebrations. I was still brooding when my father-in-law burst into my study, accompanied by the clerk who'd brought the good news from D.C. Scarlett. Wyatt passed his bar exam. My fingers paused on the abacus. He immediately started tapping his cane impatiently. Can you put that thing away? My son's about to be a big shot, and you're still counting every dime, so utterly obsessed with money. Where's the dignity of a lady of the house? I frowned, looking up at him. He was dressed to the nines, a jade belt, golden embroidered robes, a pearl-studded crown, and cloud-patterned boots, looking quite grand. If he weren't limping, you'd think he was some esteemed gentleman. But the truth was, all this luxury came from the money I'd shrewdly managed to acquire. Now that Wyatt was successful, he'd conveniently forgotten all the comforts I'd provided. Seeing him crane his neck, trying to peek at what was in my hand, I suddenly locked away the cash in my drawer. The bar exam is just the first step, I said calmly. Then comes the official swearing in. If father wants to celebrate, it's best to wait until Wyatt is officially sworn in a couple of months. He scoffed, glancing at me. Don't look at me like I'm a thief. I'm not here for money or a party. Tell her. Asher. The clerk from D.C. avoided my gaze, timidly saying, Mr. Wyatt said that since he passed the bar, the swearing in 2 months is nothing to fear. He wants you, madam, to prepare the master suite for his return in 2 months. I was confused. The master suite was already perfectly in order. Did Wyatt need anything else added? Asher looked pained, unable to speak. My father-in-law, frustrated that Asher couldn't get a word out, smacked him on the head with his cane. Idiot, 3 years in D.C., and you still act like a lowly servant. When Wyatt comes back, he'll get a more capable servant and throw you to the front yard to be a doormat. By lowly servant, he meant to mock me and my mother, who came from humble origins. He didn't notice the coldness on my face. Preening, he turned to me. Scarlett, Wyatt wants you to clear out the master suite for Miss Song, the senator's daughter. My hand trembled, and a large ink blot splattered onto the ledger. They say power corrupts, but had Wyatt's integrity rotted away even before he achieved it? My father-in-law watched, delighted, and prattled on. Scarlett, for 3 years in D.C., so far from home, with lonely nights of studying, Wyatt needed someone to keep him company and help with his papers. Senator Song offered his 3rd daughter to Wyatt, and she's been by his side for 3 years. Wyatt is a man of honor, so how could he forget her constant companionship? Why shouldn't he give her the position of lady of the house? Hurry up and move out of the master suite, and get some nice things from D.C. Don't let my son lose face in front of others. The Hayes family isn't ungrateful. We'll let you stay in a small room and count your money after they return, but you'll have to hand over the management of the household. A cold wind swept through, making the wind chimes Wyatt himself had hung on the porch clink. The inscription, "Together until old age," swayed with them, each chime like a hammer blow to my heart. I suppressed my rising anger and asked one last time, "Is this Wyatt's idea?" My father-in-law raised an eyebrow. Of course, he's always been decisive. Who among us could ever tell him what to do? You've accompanied him far enough. D.C. is a high-class place, and you, with your humble origins, can't reach it. Don't waste your efforts and lose everything. My hand trembled, the ink on my fingers like fresh, putrid blood. I don't want this. Let him come tell me himself. The same way he begged to marry me, he can beg to send me back to the Montgomery family. Meeting my father-in-law's furious gaze, I forced a smile. I may be from a merchant family, but I'm vengeful and narrow-minded. If he brazenly steals my suite and takes my dowry, Wyatt won't have an easy time of it. His face flushed with anger. He roared at me. You're married to Wyatt now. Everything is Wyatt's. There's no such thing as your Montgomery family's property anymore. You short-sighted, ignorant woman. You value a few measly dollars more than your life, and you dream of being an official's wife. I say you're deluding yourself. He slammed his cane down and limped away in a huff, watching his stumbling figure. I sighed. I regretted it. I regretted not breaking both his legs when I had the chance. This Hayes family, I feared, was about to run out of luck. I raised my hand and chopped down the swaying wind chime from the porch. Broken pieces of bone, just like Wyatt and me. I pulled out the dog-beating stick my mother had given me, pondering how many swings it would take to drag the Hayes family back into the mud. My mother-in-law, unaware of my plans, squeezed into my courtyard, her first words a reprimand. "Scarlett, what have you done to make your father so angry? We're family. Why must you be so calculating about everything? Just turn a blind eye. Listen, if he wants money, give it to him. Go apologize later. Men have their pride. We wives should be gentle and obedient." My mother-in-law, frail and breathless after every 3 words, was indecisive and weak. She constantly brought up my dowry and the affair, acting heartbroken and shamed, but all she did was cry on my shoulder. When her daughter was caught secretly meeting a scholar instead of focusing on her future, my mother-in-law couldn't even speak. She just clutched her chest and coughed up blood. When her younger son caused trouble, she'd simply faint and be sick for 3 months. Every single problem was dumped on me. "You're the lady of the Hayes family. Dealing with these matters is your duty. If not for yourself, then at least for your daughter's sake. If the Hayes family's reputation is ruined, what future will you and your daughter have? If you don't take care of it, you're forcing my sickly self to die." My mother-in-law, from a humble background, had been the tireless worker for her parents and a stepping stone for her brothers. Even after marrying into the Hayes family, she was looked down upon by some for being uneducated and crude. She spent her life timid and subservient, finally gaining authority as a mother-in-law, now wielding it against me. I couldn't stand her foolish attempts to lecture me, so I gave her a bowl of medicine that truly made her sick. Then, I turned and started cleaning up the Hayes family. My father-in-law, incorrigible in his affairs, kept stealing the dowry given to my mother by royal decree to pawn for his mistresses. I caught him red-handed and broke one of his legs. My sister-in-law, incited by a scholar, took my property deeds and money to elope. I intercepted them, quietly strangled the fake scholar, and then grandly married my sister-in-law to her long-arranged fiancé. As for my brother-in-law, who used my family's merchant name to bully people, I reciprocated by stripping him naked and tying him to a tree for a full day. From then on, my father-in-law stopped his affairs. My sister-in-law became well-behaved, leading a stable life with her substantial dowry, even earning the respect of her in-laws. Even my brother-in-law feared my methods, becoming docile like a stroked cat, never daring to cause trouble again. The Hayes mansion was finally no longer a chaotic mess. The Hayes family had witnessed my ruthlessness, each one more cautious than the last. Yet, my mother-in-law complained, "Scarlett, how could you treat your father and siblings like that? You disappoint me. If you truly want our family to be well, you should give your father more respect outside the home. Send your sister all the jewelry and accessories she wants, and support your brother by giving those rascals a good beating. Otherwise, don't blame me for setting rules for you." I realized then that some people are born spineless, with broken backs. They just love to grovel. My reply, "If you set rules, don't use my money," nearly made her choke to death. From then on, our conversations were short, and we rarely sat together. Today, she knew her son had a future, so she was acting arrogant and trying to show off in front of me. She sat down opposite me, self-satisfied. A concubine is still a wife. What more are you not satisfied with? As a woman, the most important thing is to have a harmonious family, a happy husband, and contented children. Don't worry about anything else. I think the spring pavilion is quiet. You can move there. The spring pavilion had once housed one of my father-in-law's mistresses, who died of a venereal disease a few days later. Everyone considered it an unlucky place, and now she wanted me to move there. Spineless people might survive, but those with rotten hearts only deserve a gut-wrenching death. I chuckled softly, looking up at her. "If it's quiet you like, no one can surpass you. The spring pavilion is good, and you like it too. I'll have someone move your courtyard there immediately. How can I live in such a filthy place?" Her furious protests died down under my icy smile. The sister-in-law, standing behind her, immediately jutted out her neck and yelled at me, "How dare you speak to mother like that? Do you have any respect for seniority? We've spoiled you too much these years, making you so arrogant. Now that my brother doesn't want you, wise up and get out." I turned sharply to her. She bravely met my gaze. If you hadn't pushed me so hard, why would I have had to marry into the White family? Once my brother succeeds, maybe my sister-in-law in D.C. will manage things, and I can even become an official's wife in D.C. Others I could tolerate, but my sister-in-law, Wendy Hayes, was the only one in the family who wasn't spoiled. I had pitied her and supported her countless times. The person who used to call me good sister-in-law and tearfully said she'd never forget my kindness had, in the blink of an eye, become this arrogant. I suppressed my disappointment and asked her, was it my fault you had a secret affair? You weren't strangled on the spot because I spent my hard-earned money to silence the gossip. Even marrying into the White family was because you cried endlessly on your knees, and I couldn't bear for you to be a spinster for life, so I provided a generous dowry. How did I force you? Did I force you to live a life of luxury, or did I force you to be a wolf in sheep's clothing? Her face paled, and she spat out her hatred through gritted teeth. If you had money, why didn't you just use it to help me escape my situation, instead of ruining my life? You clearly don't want to see me do well. Let me tell you the truth, my brother passed his bar exam, and his new wife in D.C. is pregnant, and the doctor says it's a boy. You're just a low-class merchant woman. If you don't voluntarily give up the position of lady of the house, what are you waiting for? My sister-in-law in D.C. is no ordinary person. Don't wait until you're dealt with, then cry and cling to us. She touched the hairpin in her hair. It was a new style from D.C., likely an expensive gift from her D.C. sister-in-law to win her over. She hadn't learned to behave herself. If you're divorced, your good-for-nothing daughter won't have a good life either. Seeing her newfound backing, she was eager to cut ties with me, so utterly heartless. She had forgotten that when she was nearly strangled by a 3-foot silk cord, it was I who begged for her life. The swaying earrings she wore were ones I had personally given her on her wedding day. How quickly she had forgotten her origins for someone else's hairpin. I suppressed the coldness and smiled at her. Wendy, you have something dirty on your ear. Let your sister-in-law help you get it off. She scoffed, looking utterly smug, and confidently extended her neck. If you were this polite earlier, why wouldn't I say good things about you? We're all family. Who would wish ill upon anyone else? If you were as generous as my sister-in-law in D.C., willing to buy loyalty, I'd naturally be closer to you, and I'd be on your side. With a swift pull, I yanked off her bloody earring. In her immense fear and pain, I let go, and the blood-stained earring dropped at her feet. Why are you looking at me like that? Keep talking. She clutched her bleeding ear, her face ashen. I raised my hand. She dodged away as if I were a ghost, no longer daring to speak. I chuckled, smoothing my hair with the raised hand. Why are you dodging? Are you afraid of me? Oh, right. This humble merchant woman, tend to be a bit uncivilized when taking back what's mine. I thought you already knew that. She bit her lip, trembling and tearful, cowering behind my mother-in-law, not even daring to meet my gaze. My mother-in-law, however, wailed, pulling her into her arms, and cursed at me. You wicked child, what did your sister say that was so wrong? How could you be so cruel, disloyal and unfilial? No wonder my son doesn't want you, just like your dead mother. You're being punished for your wicked deeds, unable to bear a son or win your husband's heart. This is all your karma. I was about to leave but stopped at her curses. I spun around and yanked off all the jade and pearl ornaments from her hair, which were rightfully mine. With a fierce tug, I pulled out a large chunk of her hair, making her scream in agony. Still, I held the emerald necklace around her neck, leaning close and saying coldly, if I'm to be punished, I'll find a way to inflict it on the Hayes family, to make your family perish. Dying with open eyes, she was too stunned to speak. I continued, instead of trying to curry favor with the new wife and make trouble for me, you should manage your own courtyard. Your good husband has nearly stolen all the serving girls, and you still carry after-sex tonics to help him recover every day. My mother, naturally, will never learn your spineless ways. Go teach your daughter how to beg on her knees for a husband's affection. Like you, my mother and I are different. We don't hold on to broken hearts, we just dig them out. The emerald beads broke from the necklace, clattering and rolling across the floor. My mother-in-law swayed, then collapsed onto the armchair, gasping for breath, about to faint again. I waved my hand, yelling out the door, hurry and take her away. It's bad luck for her to die in my courtyard. Snobbery, bullying, ingratitude. I saw the true colors of the Hayes family in a single day. That woman from D.C. was truly something. She only sent back one clerk, and the entire Hayes household changed their tune. She was a noblewoman from D.C., skilled at manipulation, but my mother also taught me not to be a pushover. She gave me a taste of their power. Oh, Hayes family, if you can't live a good life, then all of you can just die. Scarlett, you bitch, get out here. A fist-sized stone violently struck the wooden window. My lips curved. Another fool. I peeked out. And indeed, it was a fool. Wyatt's younger brother, Wesley Hayes, emboldened by his mother's tears, had come to teach me a lesson. Too bad. The combined intelligence of the 5 Hayes family members wasn't worth a single pig. He stood below the tea house, throwing one large stone after another at the window of the adjacent private room. He cursed as he threw. You jealous woman. If I don't teach you a lesson today, I'm not a man. Get out here. I'll kill you. He threw with gusto, and I watched with gusto. He was just relying on the Montgomery family's ill-gotten gains to tie even a wild animal to a tree and beat it. Utterly disgraceful. Afraid to come out and take a stone, are you? Crack. A large hole tore through the paper window. A face, cold and seething with suppressed anger, appeared. What a fine illegitimate son of the Hayes family. What an impressive young Master Hayes. Mr. Sullivan, how can it be you? Wesley Hayes was dumbfounded. His face beat red. Mr. Sullivan, listen to me. It's just that my sister-in-law has been too overbearing. Mr. Sullivan raised a hand, stopping his panicked explanation. Others are one thing, but you, Wesley Hayes, I've heard about you for a long time. If your elder sister-in-law hadn't guaranteed you'd turn over a new leaf, I wouldn't have accepted you as my student, even if you begged on your knees. Today, it seems your elder sister-in-law was too naive, or I was too foolish. Mr. Sullivan's students were everywhere. To be accepted by him was to secure half your future. In the entire county, he only chose one student, bringing them to D.C., and training them tirelessly without a single penny from the student. Wyatt had spent thousands of my dollars networking to get this shortcut for Wesley. Now, it was gone. With those arrogant stones, watching Mr. Sullivan's carriage disappear, Wesley Hayes looked thunderstruck, even struggling to speak. My brother will kill me. How could it be Mr. Sullivan? Scarlett? I sat in the tea house opposite, sipping my tea, watching his despair. Those I'd pulled out of the mud, I would naturally send back into the mud. My mother took a sip of tea, lamenting. Why does betrayal keep happening? Because human desires are boundless, but we cannot allow others to cross our boundaries. The back of her tea-holding hand bore the scars from caring for my father. Others would only praise her for her unwavering devotion to her paralyzed husband, truly loving and righteous. Yet, no one would ever imagine that my paralyzed father was pushed off a cliff by her own hands, then brutally struck twice on his lower back with a dog-beating stick, leaving him paralyzed and at her mercy. My mother, from the inner palace, had served many concubines for years. She always sought to be proper. So, when she learned my father resented her for not bearing a son and secretly took a concubine, even planning to poison her, she didn't cry or make a scene. She used old affection to coax my father into accompanying her to pray at a temple. That's how he ended up in his living hell state. She said crying and making a fuss were useless. If your heart was hurt, then tear out the heart of the person who hurt you as compensation. But we are cultured people. Our actions must be proper, without a trace of blemish. So, she dug out the hearts of my father's concubines quietly and properly. And I, too, should take the lives of the ungrateful properly. If Wyatt truly became an official, with the Hayes family's ruthless nature, my mother and I, let alone our properties, might not survive. My mother slowly sipped her tea, her posture perfectly straight. Such rotten people are disgusting enough alive. How can we let them become officials? I sighed. But D.C. is far, and it's a place mother can't return to. Killing him won't be easy. My mother's vermilion lips curled into a slight smile. What's so difficult about that? Just make him come back here. Our eyes met. Her gaze deepened. Kick the cripple's good leg. Make the entire Hayes family kneel in death. She slowly rose, carrying a bowl of steaming hot chili back to the mansion. Your father must be hungry. I need to go serve him dinner. Watching my mother's departing figure, I knew what I had to do. That night, my overjoyed father-in-law removed the jade pendant from his waist and hosted a grand feast for 3 reasons. First, to announce his son's success in passing the bar exam. Second, to ask all the merchants in Elmwood County to collectively boycott my Montgomery family's businesses, ensuring the Montgomery Company had no place to stand. Since ancient times, commoners have not fought officials, and he would soon be a high-ranking official personally appointed by the emperor. Everyone naturally promised to fight my Montgomery Company to the death. I listened from the next room, barely suppressing laughter. They were celebrating too early, too naive, but my father-in-law was overjoyed, clinking glasses and drinking until he was utterly drunk. By the time his servants carried him back to the Hayes mansion, he couldn't even stand steady, but just as he reached the gate, a woman with a ruined face blocked his path. "Brother Brandon, how could you forget you promised to buy my freedom?" My father-in-law was terrified by her face, ravaged by a venereal disease. "Get her away, quickly, get her away." The woman's eyes reddened. She threw herself at the Hayes mansion, not caring about her life. "Mr. Hayes, how could you be so heartless? Have you forgotten you said you loved my slender waist and beautiful face most, and wished to die under my skirts as the most romantic ghost? I can still be saved. Save me, and I'll continue to serve you." My father-in-law was scared to death by her face. He stumbled backward, leaning on his cane, screaming at his servants, "You fools, why don't you stop this crazy, diseased woman from besieging my Hayes family's gates? Our family's reputation is ruined because of you. Quickly, go deal with that madwoman." 4 or 5 house guards didn't dare approach her. They barely managed to hold their staffs in front of my father-in-law, blocking the woman's crazed attacks. My father-in-law took the opportunity to hobble frantically towards the backyard, leaning on his cane, but by the koi pond, he ran into me, who had been waiting for him. I dragged the dog-beating stick, as thick as my arm, and gave him an ominous smile. "Running so fast? What's the hurry?" My father-in-law, filled with rage, finally found a vent. He shrieked hysterically, "You useless good-for-nothing! That diseased lunatic actually surrounded my Hayes family's gate. You've utterly disgraced us. If I had known you were so incompetent, I would never have let you marry into my Hayes family. Now, get out and send that lunatic away." I smiled without speaking, approaching him step by step. He thought I was coming to help him up and glared at me impatiently. "It's all your fault that I'm like this today. If you had been willing to give me more money, I wouldn't have mistakenly taken a royal artifact to pawn and had my leg broken for being a thief. The Hayes family regrets it?" I stopped beside him and suddenly asked, "But wasn't it you and your good father who shamelessly came to beg for marriage, bringing ancestral tokens and Wyatt with you?" He suddenly looked up. I raised my hand and swung the stick hard at his good leg. With a look of immense shock, he fell straight into the fish pond. He had been afraid of water since he was a child and struggled desperately, screaming, "Shoo, don't waste your energy," I said, making a quieting gesture. I smiled at my father-in-law's desperate struggles. This courtyard, bearing the Hayes family plaque, was built with the Montgomery family's money. Not everyone is so heartless. All the servants in this courtyard are loyal to me. Even if you scream until your throat is raw, no one will come to save you. He didn't believe me and screamed even more frantically, even struggling bit by bit towards the edge of the pond. I shook my head, tooting, and pressed the dog-beating stick onto his head, sending him back to the center of the water. After several such repetitions, his exhausted body gradually sank to the bottom. I looked at his pathetic, easily broken state and shook my head. "Regret? If regret worked, why would I need your lives? I didn't let my father-in-law die so quickly." I dragged his useless body to the shore. He lay half dead, paralyzed, unable to control his bodily functions. He became the bait to lure Wyatt home, and I had already set up a trap for him. Slam! The door burst open, and a dust-covered Wyatt stormed in. "How dare you, Scarlett? The house is in such a state, and you're hiding in a tea-house, enjoying yourself. You are utterly unworthy." He froze as he stepped inside. Around the round table sat not only Sheriff Daniels and Mrs. Daniels of Elmwood County but also an old acquaintance of my mother's, Mr. Lee, a favored eunuch of the Empress Dowager. Mr. Lee was home visiting his relatives and passed through Elmwood County. Knowing my mother, Lady Montgomery, was a prominent figure in Elmwood, he specifically came to visit. Sheriff Daniels, eager to curry favor with important people in D.C., asked my mother for an introduction, which led to today's banquet. Wyatt had returned home today to see his paralyzed father. He must have been told of the grievances by his mother and siblings. I had prepared this grand feast, this hangman banquet, for his arrival. Mr. Lee, unaware, quickly rose. He pulled Wyatt towards the table, explaining, "This is Mr. Wyatt, a talented scholar from this county, who just passed his bar exam. He'll be sworn in next month and will likely serve as an official in D.C. We'll need your continued support, Mr. Lee." Then, he thrust a cup of wine into Wyatt's hand. "Mr. Lee is a trusted confidant of the Empress Dowager and an old acquaintance of your mother-in-law. As you'll be working in D.C., you'll need his guidance. Let's all toast Mr. Lee." Thanking him for his care, Wyatt was displeased, but I deliberately avoided his pleading gaze. Eventually, he grudgingly raised his cup and toasted Mr. Lee 3 times. Each time, I personally refilled his cup. We looked like a perfectly harmonious couple. When the banquet ended, my mother slipped a check for $5,200 into Mr. Lee's hand. "The journey was tiresome, Mr. Lee. You worked hard. Just a little something for drinks. Please, don't refuse." Mr. Lee feigned refusal for a moment, then tucked the check into his sleeve, departing with a satisfied, flushed face. Watching his triumphant back, my mother's smiling face showed a hint of coldness. She turned and gave me a deep look, a faint smile playing on her lips, before stepping into her carriage. I understood her meaning. On the way back to the mansion, Wyatt reprimanded me, displeased. "He's just a eunuch. Is he worth you abandoning household matters to specially host him? My mother-in-law has been a palace maid for so long that her servility is ingrained. She even bribed him with real money. It's utterly humiliating." The moonlight was cold, casting an eerie glow on Wyatt's refined face. He looked strangely unfamiliar. I couldn't help but recall the scene when he proposed to me. At that time, the Hayes family was poor and struggling. Even though Wyatt was an excellent scholar, he was already over 20 and still couldn't find a wife. My father-in-law thought long and hard and remembered the Hayes family ancestor, who was a dock worker like my grandfather. They had joked about arranging a marriage when both their wives were pregnant. If the Hayes family and my father's ancestor, the Sullivan family, both had sons, the agreement would be void. Later, my father, a lifesaver, married into my mother's family, becoming wealthy overnight. After that, my mother's business acumen led to the Montgomery family becoming the leading merchants in Elmwood, and this wealthy merchant family had only one daughter, me. So, the Hayes family set their sights on me. My father-in-law and Wyatt came to our door, carrying the ancestral agreement. Wyatt, full of talent, was shy and modest. He told my father that the ancestral agreement was only part of it. Most importantly, he admired Miss Montgomery's talent and praised her monthly charity work. "Though I am a commoner," he said, "I will study diligently, achieve fame, and give Miss Montgomery a good life." My mother didn't believe his empty promises, and neither did I. Wyatt's grandfather, thick-skinned and shameless, then started banging gongs and drums, displaying the tokens. In front of the vast crowd, he declared my Montgomery family untrustworthy, having lost the foundation of their business. He failed to propose and wanted to severely damage our business. That's when Wyatt rushed into the crowd and stopped him. He slapped his grandfather, causing his nose to bleed profusely, but still, he endured the scolding to defend our family's reputation. My father, moved by his character, persuaded me, "Even with your great business talent, you are still a woman. You will inevitably marry and raise a family. Though the Hayes family is poor, there are advantages to being poor. They won't be arrogant or give you trouble. And since they're from Elmwood, if Wyatt ever has ill intentions, we'll know immediately and make him pay. Besides, he has good character and is sincere towards you. If he succeeds in the exams, you could become an official's wife, which is more respectable than a merchant, who is always looked down upon." My mother said nothing, only handed me a dog-beating stick. This dog-beating stick had accompanied me through thick and thin. With it, there was no mountain I couldn't climb, no heartless person I couldn't defeat. Although we are women, we don't have to be frightened into weakness by love. There are many faithless men in this world, but aren't there also swords that kill and poisons that take lives? If a man is faithless, I will simply tear out his heart. Looking at Wyatt outside the door, the crimson red blooming like dazzling flowers in the snow, I gave him a handkerchief embroidered with red plum blossoms. The joy in his eyes, the irrepressible delight on his lips, I remember vividly to this day. Our love and affection after marriage were certainly undeniable. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone to such lengths for the Hayes family. Even when he left for D.C., he kept looking back, instructing me to take care of myself. "Wait for me," he said, And I'll give you a good life after I succeed. Don't forget me. When the wind chimes on the porch clink, it means I'm thinking of you, missing you. The faint morning light in his clear eyes sparkled with tears. Yet, in just 6 months, he had a mistress by his side, instigating the Hayes family to send bundles of cash to D.C. to set up a new home. Even on the day I nearly died giving birth to our daughter, he was with his new woman, sightseeing and making vows, all while keeping me completely in the dark. His monthly letters were full of affection, yet he was constantly tricking me out of money for D.C. It wasn't until he passed his bar exam and his future was certain that he suddenly showed his true colors, declaring his loyalty to his new woman, for years of marriage. And even now, I can't believe a person could act out such deep affection so genuinely. The carriage curtain pulled open, and a blast of cold wind hit me. Looking at Wyatt's cold, resolute back, I called out, "It's better to feed a dog than a wolf. Dogs wag their tails and try to please people, but wolves eat meat and leave no bones." Wyatt's body stiffened. I continued, "They say you have a new lover in D.C. Is that true? And when are you going to give me my share of the properties?" His hand, hidden beneath his sleeve, quietly clenched into a fist. He replied indifferently, "We can talk about these things later. The priority now is father's health. As the lady of the Hayes family, you should take responsibility for caring for him." "Oh, I remember now," he continued, "that eunuch he despises is still a guest in Elmwood. If he turns against me now, Wyatt fears the eunuch will cause trouble for him in D.C. He must proceed cautiously in his plan to seize my Montgomery dowry and properties. He is so careful and methodical, as befits his calculating nature. Unfortunately for him, the moment he was forced to return to Elmwood in disgrace, his defeat was sealed. My father-in-law's condition didn't improve. He had stayed too long in the cold pond water, freezing his body. His mouth was crooked, his eyes askew, and he was completely paralyzed. Only his mind was still intact. To allow me to take care of him, he wished, while stirring his steaming medicine. When I saw no one around, I poured a mouthful down his throat. It was so hot that his eyes rolled back. Then I chuckled. "Do you know how your father died?" His cloudy eyes widened. I smiled, looking towards the window. "See that curtain by your window? I used that to strangle him. He used his seniority to scold me, saying he'd crush my arrogance. So, I just gave him a proper hanging. It's quick. Do you want to try it?" He soiled the bed beneath him. His twisted mouth made frantic, gurgling sounds. Wyatt, hearing the commotion from outside, rushed to his father's bedside. He saw my father-in-law's eyes, wide as bells, fixed on me. Before Wyatt could react, I said gently, "Father feels sorry for me, taking care of the whole family, and now his broken body is too tiring. He wants me to go rest for a bit." As soon as I finished speaking, my father-in-law grunted even louder, as if in agreement, but the 3 Hayes children, who outsourced their filial piety, said, "Impossible, father would never let us suffer like that." I shrugged. "If you don't believe me, ask father if he still wants me to take care of him. If he wants me to rest, just give me a sign." My father-in-law screamed frantically. This method worked every time. Unable to do anything, I became a hands-off manager. Wendy Hayes refused to return to the mansion, claiming she had matters at the White family. Wesley Hayes used his studies as an excuse and also hid in his courtyard. Only Wyatt remained by his father's side day and night. The moment he left, his father would cry uncontrollably and wail like a pig. Even though his body was incapacitated, he refused to let anyone else clean up his waste. So, either my mother-in-law had to hold her nose and help, or Wyatt had to endure the disgust and clean him himself. In just a few days, both of them were visibly haggard and thin from the constant torment. Wyatt's gaze towards me grew darker and darker. I knew he couldn't stand it much longer, especially since his beautiful mistress outside the mansion, knowing he was spending every day with me, started making endless scenes. She caused such a fuss that she threatened to break up with him, forcing him to swear a solemn oath, to demote me to a concubine, to seize my fortune, and to give her the status she desired. I clutched the dog-beating stick and sighed. Wyatt was so smart. Why did he choose the most foolish path? Finally, Mr. Lee boarded a ship back to D.C. Wyatt couldn't wait another moment. He quickly brought Clara Song, whom he had settled in an inn, back to the mansion. He held the gentle beauty in his arms and spoke to me sharply. "I'll be returning to D.C. soon, but before that, I must give Clara a proper status. After the swearing in, I'll be an official." And I'll need a virtuous wife to manage affairs both inside and outside the home. You come from a merchant family. What understanding do you have of D.C. society and etiquette? Hand over the position of lady of the house to Clara. I will give you the status of a secondary wife, and you can stay in Elmwood to manage the household. Make sure to take good care of father and treat mother and sister well. I don't want to see mother's tears or sister's grievances again. As for Wesley, even without Mr. Sullivan, there are other tutors in D.C. Once I find a path for him, I will send someone to fetch him. He had considered everyone, except for me and our daughter, Anne. Perhaps a husband could not have two wives. A secondary wife was just a nicer way of saying concubine. Wyatt's eyes were gentle, his gaze fixed on the delicate Clara song. When he looked at me, there was no hiding the irritation and disgust. Where was the gentleness he once showed? He hadn't even achieved his position yet, and he was already acting like a petty tyrant who had gotten his way. Seeing his arrogant, foolish demeanor, I was already thinking about what kind of coffin would be most fitting for someone as proper as myself to prepare for him. I watched him coldly. What if I refuse? Wyatt frowned. No, son. Unfilial, unbrotherly. Are you forcing me to write you a letter of divorce? Anne, sleepy, hugged me. His unsaid words were cut short. For this daughter, born before he went to D.C., he had never truly cared. He merely glanced at Anne, then frowned and snapped. She's almost 3 years old, and she still can't sleep without being held by you. I don't know how you teach her. Take her away quickly. Don't let her annoy mother. My mother-in-law looked triumphant, and Clara's song was also beaming with pride. Only Anne bit her lip, silent. The night wind was cool, and hung around my neck, softly asking, Mommy, Grandma says and we'll have a little brother soon. Then all of Anne's things will be his. Does Mommy have another baby in her tummy? I smiled and shook my head. No. It's a huge blessing that the Hayes family, who should be childless, even has Anne. How could they have other children? They still didn't know my plan. The next afternoon, Clara's song arrived at my courtyard, graceful and alluring. So this is your courtyard. Luxurious, yes, but a bit too gaudy, not elegant enough. After all, you're from a merchant family. You can't compare to the depth of a scholarly one. After saying this, she feigned alarm and covered her mouth. Oh dear. Did I say too much? Did I make you unhappy? But you have to be more magnanimous, more understanding. After all, there will be many more such moments in the future. When my husband married you, it was out of necessity, but he has always loved scholarly pursuits. How could he ever truly connect with your clattering abacus? To be honest, my husband and I met 3 years ago. Even when my father visited D.C. last year, I was the one who hosted him. But can you guess why everyone in the Hayes family kept it a secret from you and tried to curry favor with me instead? Naturally, it's because you're not worthy. She covered her mouth and chuckled softly, her gaze constantly appraising the priceless objects in my room. It was as if everything was already hers. She wanted not only the position of lady of the house but also my Montgomery family's properties and my life. The Hayes residence in D.C. was certainly not as luxurious and ancient as the one in Elmwood. After all the money to furnish it had been secretly sent by the Hayes family. It's not as convenient as what you're used to, but it's okay. My husband said that in the future, you'll manage the household, and I'll manage the accounts. I'll take your daughter to D.C., and we'll have the best of both worlds. On the family tree, only Clara's song, will be recorded. After all, his firstborn is in my belly. My husband's eldest son must have the status of being born to the main wife. You understand that, right? She wanted to use my only bloodline to control me, to make me continuously provide them with money. She also wanted to hold my life in her hands, while she remained the high and mighty lady of the house. The Hayes family couldn't have come up with such a scheme. It had to be Clara Song's doing. Seeing my face darken, she grew even more smug. She pinched Anne's face hard. Though she lacks manners and doesn't know to greet her proper mother, she's still somewhat cute. I'll teach her slowly. If she doesn't learn, a few more beatings will do the trick. I snatched Anne away, avoiding her hand. With a glance, the nanny carried Anne out.